U.S. manufacturing can be on the receiving end of the trade war. Marketplace's Justin Ho looked into how that sector has been reacting so far this year.
S.L. Munson & Company is a manufacturer in Columbia, South Carolina that makes precision tools for other manufacturers. Company president Lyman Munson says the company imports components from Europe, which means he has to pay a 10% tariff on those imports.
We're writing a check every week now on shipments coming in.
Munson says the company can't absorb that 10% tariff, but passing that cost along to his customers hasn't exactly been easy.
We're getting some pushback. Some companies are offering to negotiate. We have another customer who today said, we're not going to pay any tariffs.
Last month, manufacturers surveyed by the Institute for Supply Management said demand for manufactured goods contracted.
And if you look at the comments, 86% of our panelists this past month have cited tariffs.
That's ISM's Susan Spence. Manufacturers also said they're reducing production and employment.
People were saying we're not backfilling, we're not replacing people, and a fair number of the comments were around we continue to do layoffs.
That said, we haven't seen any mass layoffs happen in the sector so far this year, says Scott Paul, president of the Alliance for American Manufacturing. He says that's because businesses are reluctant to make any big decisions since the president's tariff policies have changed so much.
Uncertainty is the enemy of making capital investments, of making permanent hiring, and of making plans for growth in the future.
Paul says we still don't know what tariff policy is going to look like a month from now. And until we do, he says the manufacturing sector is going to keep postponing those kinds of decisions. I'm Justin Ho for Marketplace.
U.S. stock and bond markets are closed today to honor the Juneteenth holiday and will reopen tomorrow morning.
Marketplace Morning Report is supported by Odoo, offering software that provides building blocks for creating a custom software suite. Odoo, what small businesses need. And by Schwab. Schwab offers investors choices like full-service wealth management, self-directed investing options, and trading on Thinkorswim. More at schwab.com.
Juneteenth is a day that commemorates the formal emancipation of enslaved people in Texas by a Union general who took control of Galveston on June 19, 1865. Among the many legacies of the long history of inequality, according to the Pew Research Center, the median white household in the U.S. has about $250,000 in wealth versus $27,000 for the typical black household. Marketplace's Mitchell Hartman joins me now. He's been reporting for us on the racial wealth gap through the lens of Tulsa, Oklahoma, once home to Black Wall Street, once one of the most prosperous black communities in America, then devastated by an armed white mob in the Tulsa Race Massacre of 1921. Mitchell, hello.
Good to be here.
We wanted to spend some time talking about ways to reduce the persistent racial wealth gap in America.
Well, let's start with Tulsa. So after decades of efforts to obtain reparations for the hundreds of deaths, the homes and businesses that were destroyed in that 1921 massacre, there was no government or insurance compensation afterward. Just this month, Tulsa's mayor announced a reparations plan. It's a $105 million private fund that is more than advocates expected by quite a lot. It'll pay for affordable housing, education, small business development for Tulsa's black community. You know, there have been efforts to provide reparations in other places. You've heard of Evanston, Illinois for housing, Asheville, North Carolina, Amherst, Massachusetts.
Steps toward reparations. These are local regional efforts, right? It's not really addressing the racial wealth gap at a national scale.
No, a lot of advocates for reparations for African Americans say it doesn't do that. Here's Kristen Mullen. She's co-author of From Here to Equality, Reparations for Black Americans in the 21st Century.
We think of reparations as a federal project that has as its major focus the elimination of the racial wealth gap. They are the only entity that can possibly pay these funds and eliminate the racial wealth gap. It's a tremendous sum.
And Mitchell, from your interviews and conversations, how do advocates of reparations think about how much is owed to black Americans today?
So calculations of this often start with the moment of emancipation. Most enslaved people, were sent into freedom without any resources or compensation. Reconstruction was eventually abandoned. Jim Crow segregation, lynchings, and massacres like the one in Tulsa just kept on destroying Black intergenerational wealth. Meanwhile, as Mullen's co-author, Duke public policy professor William Darity points out, white Americans get to homestead out on the prairie, they get free land, they put down roots, and they build wealth.
And so whites are given an enormous largesse as the nation completes its colonial settler project in the West, while Blacks who are newly emancipated are not even given the land that they formerly tilled for their slave masters.
And, Darity says it continues right through the 20th century. You have federal housing assistance for white veterans after World War II. That mostly excludes Black veterans and redlines Black neighborhoods. The list just goes on. All told, Darity estimates redressing the racial wealth gap now through reparations would cost the federal government $16 trillion.
$16 trillion. Here in June 2025, Mitchell, where does the effort for reparations stand at the national level?
There's a House bill, H.R. 40, that has been introduced in every Congress since 1989. It would start a process to study reparations for slavery at the federal level. That is not likely to go anywhere in this Congress. Overall, support for reparations for African Americans is a minority view. Pew Research Center finds that about 30% of Americans approve of the idea, 70% don't. Among Blacks, more than 75% approve, while white approval is below 20%.
Marketplace's Mitchell Hartman has been reporting on this. Mitchell, thanks.
You're welcome.
It's the Marketplace Morning Report. We're from APM, American Public Media.
WNYC is supported by the Central Park Conservancy, now reopening the Conservatory Garden with its beautifully restored English, French, and Italian gardens, a hidden retreat for New Yorkers. Learn more at centralparknyc.org.
Up next, it's the BBC NewsHour on WNYC. The Supreme Court upheld a Tennessee law that banned certain medical treatments for transgender children. Later on the Brian Lara Show, a doctor explains how this will affect transgender patients and their families. Plus, a Juneteenth celebration paying tribute to enslaved people. Those conversations and more at 10 on the Brian Lara Show on WNYC. 78 and sunny now today. Chance of late afternoon showers and storms near 90, but a potential for some hazardous weather.
This is WNYC, FM, HD, and AM, New York.
Welcome to NewsHour from the BBC World Service. Hello, I'm James Menendez. Today, a rare interview with the Iranian government from inside Tehran. The Deputy Foreign Minister tells us it would be a big mistake for Donald Trump to join Israel's bombing campaign.
President Trump will be remembered forever for a war that it was not his war, and this will be a quagmire, and this will be hell for the whole region.
It's a view shared by many of Mr. Trump's most loyal supporters. We'll assess what's at stake militarily and politically. Also, a draft deal to end the conflict in eastern Congo, and the American businessman who's buying the LA Lakers for an eye-watering $10 billion.
It's a gargantuan figure, right? This is one of the crown jewels of professional sports, not just in the United States, but in the world. And if I'm going to secure this team, I have to pay a premium to do it.
All that and more coming up after the news.
Hello, I'm Moira Alderson with the BBC News. Israel has suggested it may try to assassinate Iran's supreme leader Ali Khamenei after killing many of his military commanders. The Defence Minister Yisrael Katz insisted the Ayatollah be held accountable for an Iranian missile strike on a hospital near Tel Aviv. Many patients had been moved from the Beersheba hospital, saving lives. Hugo Beshega reports from Jerusalem.
The early morning Iranian attack was the most intense in recent days. In Beersheba, a hospital was hit, but its director said many patients had already been evacuated. The country's defense minister, Israel Katz, made a direct threat to Iran's supreme leader, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, saying he could no longer be allowed to exist. In Iran, an Israeli strike hit a heavy water reactor under construction. Officials say there is no risk of radioactive material spreading.
The presidents of China and Russia have strongly condemned Israel's strikes against Iran and called for de-escalation. Xi Jinping and Vladimir Putin held a telephone call in which they expressed support for a diplomatic solution to the crisis. Iran's Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi is to hold talks with his counterparts from France, Germany and Britain in Geneva on Friday. His deputy, Saeed Khatibzadeh, said Tehran was ready to negotiate.
We are up to diplomacy, and we have been always up to diplomacy. We accepting the proposal by E3 and High Representative of EU to meet in Geneva is another sign that we always welcome that. But my country is under attack, under aggression, and the aggressor should take the lesson. They are killing my people, and we are going to resist.
Finland has decided to pull out of an international treaty that bans landmines because of worries about the military threat from neighbouring Russia. The Finnish parliament voted in favour of withdrawing with a clear majority. The former foreign minister, Pekka Haavisto, told the chamber why he supported leaving the treaty.
I was an MP when Finland joined the Ottawa Convention. The world was different then. There was no war in Europe, unlike today, after Russia's attack on Ukraine. The world and our region now look totally different.
Lithuania, Latvia, Estonia and Poland are also leaving the treaty or plan to do so. Campaigners, including more than 100 Nobel Peace Prize winners, called it a disturbing development which would put people's lives at risk. The Democratic Republic of Congo and Rwanda have taken a major step towards ending hostilities with the signing of a draft peace deal. Following talks mediated by the United States and Qatar, the two countries are expected to sign an agreement next week in Washington. If implemented, it would mean the end of fighting between Rwandan-backed M23 rebels and the Congolese army. The Trump administration is hoping the deal will lead to US companies being able to source critical minerals. BBC News.
On WNYC, 78 and sunny at 4 minutes after 9. Good morning. I'm Michael Hill. New details have emerged about a Queens high school student detained at an immigration hearing this month. WNYC's Jessica Gould reports.
Derlise Chusin Toakisa is 19 and in 11th grade at Grover Cleveland High School. He was training to become a lifeguard, had just tried out for the varsity soccer team, and was studying for the Regents exam. He's being held at an ICE facility in Texas. He's one of two New York City public school students who were detained at immigration court by ICE after appearing for scheduled hearings. The Department of Homeland Security did not respond to an inquiry. A spokesperson previously said the agency arrested a 19-year-old who tried to grab the weapon of a federal officer. But Toakisa's legal team says he has no criminal record. They cite letters from classmates and teachers saying he's a respectful and responsible young man.
New York lawmakers are leaving Albany for the year. Among the flurry of last-minute activity, lawmakers watered down consumer protection bills. WNYC's Jimmy Vielkind reports.
A comprehensive overhaul to live event ticketing laws is on hold for now after pushback from StubHub and other resellers. Assemblymember Ron Kim wrote a bill to cap fees and restrict scalping. Instead of taking it up, legislators simply extended the current law.
Obviously, it's disappointing.
Another bill was drafted to help consumers sue companies that rip them off. Business lobbyists wintered it down. The Attorney General will get more power, but everyday people won't. Consumer lawyer Ariana Lindermeyer says the bill needs to be bolder.
It is not meeting the need of the time.
Attorney General Tish James says that legislation is a good step forward.
Alternate side parking is suspended for a holiday, but pay the parking meters. Several disruptions on MTA, the subway, so check before you go. 78 and sunny now. Showers and storms. Some of them could be severe.
WNYC.
Hello and welcome to NewsHour from the BBC World Service. We're coming to you live from London. I'm James Menendez. And we are once again devoting quite a bit of today's programme, but not all, to the war between Israel and Iran, now in its 7th day. And in a moment we'll be hearing a perspective that we haven't had in that time, the views of a senior Iranian government minister who's in Tehran. But first to the latest developments in the conflict, because overnight and into the morning there was a series of strikes by Iranian missiles that managed to evade Israel's defensive systems. The emergency services there said at least 89 people have been injured overall. One of the buildings hit was a hospital in the southern city of Beersheba. Shlomi Kodesh is head of the Soroka Medical Center.
The people we have left in the hospital are elderly people, cancer patients, people who need urgent medical care that cannot go home. And these people were targeted directly to be killed by a missile attack. There is no other explanation for this, and it's shocking that such a thing would take place.
Well, Iran said it was targeting a military base nearby, not the hospital itself. However, following that attack, Israel's Defense Minister Israel Katz said that Iran's supreme leader, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, could, quote, no longer be allowed to exist. Well, all this is unfolding as President Trump weighs up whether to join Israel's attacks on Iran, and while others try to find a way to end the fighting. Joining me now is our chief international correspondent, Lise Doucette. Lise, is there still a chance for diplomacy here?
There is possibly a chance, but it does come down to President Trump, who is said to have approved a military plan, but hasn't taken a decision yet on whether to enact it. Bear in mind, he is the president who, in his inauguration speech, promised to be a peacemaker and a unifier. But now he's warning Iran that there could be a really, really bad war, as he likes to say, if they don't accept an agreement. But the president hasn't given conflicting messages about how he would like to resolve this escalating crisis. There is a meeting tomorrow in Geneva involving the foreign ministers of Iran, Germany, France, Britain, the EU foreign policy chief. Could that possibly provide an off-ramp in this crisis? A short time ago, I spoke to Iran's deputy foreign minister, Saeed Khatibzadeh, and I asked him what he was expecting from America.
Actually, we are under attack. An act of aggression has happened. We were in the middle of diplomacy. You remember that we were together in Oslo when we were planning to have the sixth round of nuclear talks in Muscat, and we were actually on the verge of reaching to an agreement. All of a sudden, Israelis decided to start an act of aggression against Iran and move on offense on Iran to sabotage the whole process. The messages that we are receiving from Americans, backdoor messages, are that we are not involved and we are not going to be involved. But the messages that are on public, we are receiving through President Trump's tweets and his interviews. They are very much indicating that Americans have been aware, they have participated, that they have supported.
You mentioned the backdoor messages. President Trump says that the Iranians are telling him they want to come to the White House, they want to negotiate. But what else have they told you? Do they say there is a way out of an escalating war?
Look, Liz, what's happening right now is an act of aggression. We are under attack.
Let's look at the way there's been 7 days of each country attacking each other. Today,
no, we are not attacking each other. We are defending ourselves.
But you are also striking Israel. Today, you actually hit a hospital, a civilian hospital, as you were aiming for a military target. Is there a way to end this war?
Look, Liz, this genocidal regime, they started a war on Iran. They attacked us. They attacked our hospitals. They killed our top commanders. We are on self-defense under Article 51 of the UN Charter, and we are going to continue this self-defense until the aggressor take the lesson that it cannot just, attack another country, another sovereign country.
Dr. Khatibzadeh, what if President Trump decides to take the United States into the war? Iran has said all options are on the table. What do you mean by that?
We think that this war is not American war, but if they would like to get into this war, President Trump will be remembered forever for a war that it was not his war, but dragged in. And this will be a quagmire, and this will be hell for the whole region.
Isn't this a big risk for Iran? Iran is no match for the world's biggest military power, and the people of Iran are already suffering enormously.
There is a national unity, and what you are seeing right now is this exactly national unity which is happening inside and outside Iran. This is not a matter of who has the superiority in hard power. This is a matter of resistance. We are going to resist. Of course, diplomacy, it has been always an option, and President Trump knows better than anybody else that we were on the verge of reaching to an agreement. And one of the debates right now is that Netanyahu, because of knowing that we are on the verge of reaching to an agreement, tried to sabotage this. I don't want to make judgment right now, but President Trump knows better than anybody else.
President Trump says there was a deal, you could have accepted, and you didn't do a deal. Is there a deal that you would accept that would avoid the war?
There was nothing on the table. There were, some text exchange between us, and we were on negotiating some parts. I'm not here to talk about all the details. I can brief you when you have time about all the details. But even President Trump knows, and still, that Mr. Witkoff is sending, our Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi some messages back and forth, and he knows also when you are not on air, you can talk to them and to understand that this genocidal apartheid regime of Israel has sabotaged diplomacy for many years. You remember that from 1996.
Sorry to interrupt. Could we just be clear, Doctor?
Prime Minister was always arguing that Iran was on the verge of achieving nuclear bomb, which was totally fabricated, unsubstantiated, claims. And just today, IAEA chief said that they had no evidence that Iran has ever converted any or attempted anything toward nuclear bomb.
But Dr. Khatibzadeh, you are enriching, the IAEA says you are enriching uranium to 60%, which isn't necessary for a civilian nuclear program. And many are asking, why are you enriching so high? It underlines an intention to move up to 90% and to develop a nuclear bomb.
Look, you cannot start a war based on speculation or intention.
But there is a concern. There is a concern.
Look. This is nonsense. Look, the Israeli has attacked as a non-NPT member possessing nuclear warheads. Iran has no warhead, has no nuclear warhead. Iran is member of NPT. IAEA supervision is happening right now inside Iran, and they attack our military plus our nuclear sites. This is very, very, very bad move by Israelis, and IAEA and other international organization didn't condemn that. Very dangerous move, because from now on everybody is welcome to attack another under IAEA supervision peaceful nuclear site. What is happening is very dangerous move by Israelis, and unfortunately Europeans and Americans do not understand this dangerous move can easily start a new quagmire in our region.
Do you have an expectation that the meeting in Geneva tomorrow could help to de-escalate?
We have been always up to diplomacy, and we very much hope that this line continues. But it is different from the self-defense which is happening right now. My country is under attack, and the aggressor should take the lesson. They are killing my people, and we are going to resist, and this is a very holy resistance which is happening right now against the atrocities and aggression which is happening against my people.
So what do you say to the people of Israel who are running to the bomb shelters now, who hear the supreme leader saying death to Israel, that he wants to destroy Israel? They see your nuclear program. Is that Iran's ambition, that you do want to destroy Israel?
These are all your words, not our leaders' words. Look what my leaders said. We were not on the verge of any military attack or any hard move against anybody. Everybody knows that this war was unprovoked, unnecessary, against my people. They attacked our top commanders. They killed on the first night 63 children of Iranians. And by the way, Elise, we are very pinpointing all the military intelligence and Mossad bases inside. Look,
civilians are dying on both sides.
No, Liz.
Civilians are dying on both sides.
That's who started this war. Who is possessing nuclear warhead? Israel is not member of NPT, Non-Proliferation Treaty. Israel possesses hundreds of nuclear warheads. If Israel started this aggression, these are facts.
Is there any reassurances you can give to the people of Iran who are fleeing for their lives now? They want this war to end, but they will hear you saying that you just want to continue for more war.
The moment that they stop these atrocities, the moment that they accept that the aggressor accepts responsibility to put an end to the impunity of Israelis, I think is the moment that the whole region can move on.
So would you confirm then that Iran has no intention of developing a nuclear bomb? Because that is the big question being asked in capitals around the world.
Look, Liz, if we wanted to have a nuclear bomb, we would have had it no way before. And we are going to say again that Iran has never developed any program for nuclear, or weaponization of its peaceful nuclear activities, and Iran was not going to do that. Bottom line.
And that was Iran's Deputy Foreign Minister Saeed Khatibzadeh speaking to us from Tehran. Well, there have also been further Israeli attacks on Iran in the past 24 hours. We can't report from inside the country, but there are people there sharing what they're seeing and hearing. Our correspondent Sebastian Usher has been gauging the situation.
Each day, the pressure on people in Iran is growing as Israel pursues its attacks. The roads are still jammed with cars as people try to make their escape from the capital. And as the situation inside Iran worsens, food and basic commodities are running out, as this man found as he scoured the shelves of his local supermarket.
I've come to Karouche store to shop. Just take a look. I can't find a single can of tomato paste or spaghetti. People have cleared everything out. Only chips and drinks are left. That's it. Look at the rest of the items. All these shelves are empty. I mean, you can't find spaghetti anywhere else either. It's all been taken.
Shops and food stalls outside Tehran can't get supplies as Israel intensifies its attacks on targets in the capital.
The demand is very high, but no new shipments are coming from Tehran. They say the factory has shut down. We were supposed to receive a shipment 2 or 3 days ago, but it hasn't arrived.
Iranians outside Iran are hearing from relatives and friends how even accessing cash is becoming harder by the day.
My sister went to the bank this morning to get some money, and even though there was cash available in front of the bank employee, they didn't give her any. The ATMs aren't working, and it's not possible to withdraw money with a card either.
The experiences of some people inside Iran. Our correspondent Sebastian Usher listening in. We'll be returning to this story a little later in the programme. We're going to be hearing Donald Trump's political and military options, discussing that in about 15 minutes. You're listening to NewsHour.
Up next, it's the Brian Lehrer Show on WNYC. Right now, it's 9:19, and this is WNYC. The Supreme Court upheld a Tennessee law that bans certain medical treatments for transgender children. Later on the Brian Lehrer Show, a doctor explains how this will affect transgender patients and their families. Had conversation and more at 10 this morning on WNYC. We're at 80 now, sunny. Today, chance of late afternoon showers and storms, near 90, a potential for some hazardous weather.
WNYC support comes from the New York Hall of Science, a hands-on science center and STEM learning lab available to all New Yorkers, presenting CityWorks, which asks all visitors to think like urban planners and city workers. More at nysci.org.
This is Allison Stewart, host of All of It. Did you know that you can live stream or explore archived episodes of our show for free 24/7? Download the WNYC app today at wnyc.org/app.
This is James Menendez with NewsHour, live from the BBC. Well, diplomacy seems to be having more success with another long-running conflict, this one in Africa. A conflict that's been running on and off for decades, but that saw a sharp spike in violence earlier this year when a rebel militia, backed by Rwanda, seized large swathes of eastern Congo, killing thousands of people and forcing many, many more to flee their homes in terror. Well, now the Congolese and Rwandan governments have reached a draft peace deal to end the fighting. It's expected to be signed in Washington next week after intense mediation by the US and also Qatar. Richard Moncrief is an expert on this part of Africa for the conflict resolution organisation Crisis Group. So, what do we know about this draft deal?
The main principles of the deal are a respect for DRC's territorial integrity. That's the phrasing that I understand will be in the deal, which is essentially code for the withdrawal of Rwandan forces who have been in the DRC without invitation for a number of years. And then on the other hand, a load of security guarantees to address Rwandan concerns about militia roving eastern DRC, some of whom are dedicated to overthrowing the government in Kigali.
Those references to territorial integrity, how significant do you think that is? Because Rwanda's always denied sending any troops into the DRC, hasn't it?
Well, yes. I mean, since about a year and a half ago, the Rwandans have started to admit that they have what they call defensive measures, by which they mean a few troops on the border. But observers know, and the American mediators know, that there are thousands of Rwandan troops in the DRC. And I think that this reference to territorial integrity was very, very important to get the Congolese side on board in this agreement. And also Having talked to some American negotiators, not since the news of this deal has broken, but a few weeks ago, I understand that they've been quite clear with the Rwandan side, saying that their intention to start to invest a lot in minerals in the eastern Congo, but with the potential for logistics and minerals processing deals with Rwanda, depends on getting those troops out, because they see that as the first steps to a wider peace deal in a more stable region.
What about the issue of the M23 militia that's been causing so much misery for people in this part of the world? Is that addressed, do you know?
Well, I think it's more implicit. There are parallel talks going on mediated by the Qataris in Doha. But I am sure that although the M23 aren't at the talks in Washington, I think the American mediators are quite clear that Rwanda has control over the M23, and they will be talking about all those issues, even if we don't necessarily see them in a signed agreement in Washington next week.
How much of a diplomatic achievement is this for the Trump administration? And is there a big commercial element for the US in this, do you think, at least in the future?
Well, I think it's quite an achievement. Of course, the test will be in the follow-up and the implementation. I've understood that the Americans have put a degree of pressure on the Rwandans to withdraw their troops before a signature. Now, we hear that their scheduled signature is less than 10 days away, so whether Rwandan troops will withdraw within that time frame, we don't know. But if they don't, and even if they do, an awful lot of the very, very tricky issues that other mediators have struggled with for years will be left for implementation afterwards. In particular, I think it'll leave it to African mediators from the African Union, who are not so well positioned as the Americans to keep the pressure on either side to hold to their agreements. The Americans are quite clear that what they want to do is use their investment potential to push both the Congolese and Rwandans towards a deal that would then see American investors come in, start to mine more minerals in the context of a much more legal regional trade. So they've actually said to the Rwandans, you can keep processing minerals in Rwanda, but we want that to be more transparent and legal, which essentially means paying export tax to the Congolese government. In return for that, we're going to come in and make significant investments in mining, both in North Kivu and other areas of DR Congo. But for that to happen, we've got to have peace on the ground. And I know that that's been the main thrust of American negotiation up to now.
And that was Richard Moncrief of the International Crisis Group. Let's head to Thailand now, a country which, unlike many of its neighbours, has traditionally frowned on gambling, its opponents arguing that it's incompatible with Thai Buddhist values. But that could be about to change. The government wants to open up the country to new casinos to promote tourism and to bring in tax revenue. From Thailand, Ed Butler reports.
So I come here and I buy my ticket?
Yeah, government price about 80 baht per ticket.
Along with my fixer Mao, I've come to one of Bangkok's bustling markets to test my luck at one of the world's most popular national lotteries. The clicking noise is dozens of women stapling their remaining lottery tickets onto display boards. The top prize, around $180,000 US. Mao and I approach one of the vendors.
I see you have a picture of a Buddhist monk there on the wall. Is that for good luck?
For blessing and good luck.
Yeah. It's not particularly Buddhist, this behavior, though, is it?
Nothing to do with the religious. It's about something that you want to take some risk. You want to have some fun.
The state lottery is a legal form of gambling in Thailand. An awful lot of other traditional Thai pastimes aren't. In Mae Sot, a town in the north of the country, there's regular illicit cockfighting, clearly popular with some locals, according to the cafe owner I met, who owns some of the fighting roosters.
We have events every week on Fridays and Saturdays here and in another town nearby. Mostly they come to gamble. Some people bet up to $300.
Gambling in Thailand takes many other forms too. Thanakorn Kamkris is Secretary General of the country's Stop Gambling Foundation.
It's about 20 to 30 million people, or more than 60% of Thai citizens in Thailand, involved with gambling. And now they open an online casino game is recognized as hard gambling and create lots of damage.
So why then has Thailand decided to join the list of countries creating new casino complexes? General Tachai Pitanilabut, who runs the anti-human trafficking and online scam centre for the Royal Thai Police, told me that liberalising the country's existing gambling restrictions was overdue.
I'm a supporter of legalization. I think it's difficult to control the online gambling because it can set up any place in the world, any countries.
Is online gambling itself becoming more of a challenge?
Absolutely.
Well, despite those arguments, there is now a permanent anti-gambling protest outside the Parliament building in Bangkok. Many opposition MPs are also concerned. Rangsiman Rome is one of them.
The government proposed an entertainment complex like special area, have casino inside, have hotel, the hall for the concert, have the stadium, can be everything. But the condition is must have casino inside. So, it brings me the question that Thailand will end up like Cambodia or Laos or Myanmar.
These are countries with a reputation for corruption and money laundering and all kinds of bad things associated with their casinos.
Correct.
In a statement, the Thai government has said that the new proposed entertainment complexes, if approved, would increase revenue, support investment in Thailand and solve illegal gambling.
And that was Ed Butler reporting there from Thailand. Do stay with us here on NewsHour. We've got lots more coming up in the second half of the programme. And let me just remind you that, as ever, there is a live page up and running on our top story, the war between Israel and Iran, with all the latest updates. BBC